All right, welcome back, founders, for part 2 of the Gab Lab. We are joined by Alice Wheaton. She's a salesperson extraordinaire, and I've had the good fortune of seeing Alice in action firsthand, and quite honestly, incredible to see her in action and what she's able to do without any preparation and making that call and landing that next step. So, welcome back to the Gab Lab, Alice.
Thanks, Tanya.
Okay, this section is really all about making the call. It is about the call and the pipeline and the fear. Before we get into the call, I actually just want to ask, because I know a lot of founders are going to find any workaround to avoid having to make the call. I'll send an email. I'll do a direct message. They'll find every excuse in the book or every other method possible. You're a big fan of a phone call as a first point of connection in business to business sales. Can you talk a little bit about why it's the call and why you're do I say hellbent? Can I say that? On using that as your method?
That's a great question. Actually, I've never pondered that before, but remember earlier I talked about agreeable, assertive, and aggressive?
Yes.
So making a call is assertive. Even though at the moment the person may feel terrified and feel fear, doubt, and insecurity, I sometimes tell people that I'm actually not a sales trainer, I'm a FUD buster. And they say, what's a FUD buster? And I say, well, fear, uncertainty, and doubt.
Nice.
I make them go away in my clients. So what happens is when we pick up the phone and the other person picks up the phone, we're actually interacting as strangers. We know what we're about, but our prospects, so if I called you today, Tanya, and we didn't know each other, it would be imperative for me to immediately say, good morning, Tanya. My name is Alice Wheaton, and we've never met, and the reason I'm calling. And you might wonder, well, why is it imperative to say that? It's because people think, who is she? What did she want? What does she want? What does she get my name? Mm-hmm. So when we preempt the client from having a negative thought process, who the hell is this? Where'd you get my name? What does she want from me? Right? When we preempt that and answer it, good morning, Tanya. And I use a pause between almost every word. Because when you pause and talk slowly, you appear to be an A-level salesperson up front. A C-level salesperson would talk 4 minutes out of 5. And they're talking not because they're ignorant, they're talking as a way of camouflaging their fear, but in fact, they're actually broadcasting their fear.
And to your point earlier too, it's superficial conversation, right? How are you doing today? What's the weather like there? How are you? It's questions that you really just don't care about the answer, and certainly isn't, dare I say it, building a relationship.
And then what happened? Well, I prefer, I would consider being a builder, but build credibility.
Okay.
You didn't walk up today, and I didn't walk up today thinking we're down a friend. And I want a relationship with the first salesman that calls me.
Okay.
So I would say build credibility. And that's what so when you say, good morning, Tanya, this is Alice Wheaton, and we've never met. And the reason I'm calling is that I understand you're the person ultimately in charge of your company's stability, profitability, and recognition as a high status in the marketplace. Am I out to lunch, or is someone spreading the rumor? And then I shut up.
Okay.
Now that person has got a lot to think about, because if they're not going to hang up the phone because they're thinking, well, what about this? What about that? Who is she? Why did you get my name? Right? They're not thinking, where'd you get my name? Because I've already said, I don't know you. We've never met, but the reason I'm calling.
So if we go back to why a phone call, I'm hearing it is because it builds credibility. It positions you as being confident and believing in your product or service enough that you can get on the phone to start off with. And
Yes.
then as we lead into kind of this foundation of making the call, I'm hearing, give your name. Hello, my name is Tanya Woods Richardson. Where you got this person's information from.
And if not, you say, and we've never met.
And we've never met. And so then you don't need to say like, oh, and I grabbed your contact information off of LinkedIn, or I saw you in an association list. No, just don't even bother. Okay, we've never met. And then you talked about the reason for my call. So is the reason about, are you getting to the ask right away? Or when you say the reason, is it about finding reasons why they have been chosen for you to connect with? I see that your company does ABC, or I see that you have done this, or that you've been recognized for this, or that you have a need for this. Are you clarifying why you've chosen to call them? Or are you putting the ask?
My name is Alice Wheaton. We've never met. And the reason I'm calling is that I understand, as CEO of your organization, if you don't have a clear line of sight between you and your bottom line, most businesses are compromised. And I'd like to share with you how I help businesses. First of all, manage their top line and then grow it exponentially.
Okay. So that is, I'm hearing in there, what I'm hearing is a little bit of a pain point. The pain point for businesses as like the ones that you're calling.
Yeah.
So understanding their
so your salespeople need to understand the pain point of the client. How can your salesperson improve the credibility, the viability, the financial stability, and the ease of operations within your company?
Okay. So maybe that does go back to the framework, right? Understanding that audience and what that pain point is. Right,
well,
before you make a call.
But when I call, I don't understand. I don't really know their pain points.
Okay. So the industry point.
Yes. The
in general. Okay.
Every company wants to grow and flourish. And in order to do, you cannot grow and flourish without more sales. It's as simple as that.
Okay. Okay. So that I get. Now for everybody else, it's going to be different because maybe their value proposition isn't making sales calls, but understanding how their product or service solves an industry pain point, what the general industry pain point is. And then, hello, my name is, we've never met, or where you got the name, and the industry is going through this. Here's how we tend to help. And is this something, sorry. And then the next lead in, is this something
what I'd like to do, if it's okay with you,
okay,
is set an hour and not like none of this 10-minute time. So if clients say to me, oh, well, I got 20 minutes. And I said, oh, I'm so sorry. There's no way that I could understand your company and make some really good recommendations for you in 20 minutes. And then I shut up.
Okay. Okay. So what I would like to do is, you're recommending an hour.
What I'd like to do is set an hour with you so that we could sit down and understand your position within the industry and how I can help you get more leads and turn them into business.
Okay. So what I think is, so sorry, where my head went there is, again, I think that because you mentioned it, it challenges what the typical norm is, where people are like, oh, could I get 5 or 10 minutes of your time?
That wouldn't be. C-level salespeople.
C-level salesperson. Okay.
Then they'll show up in that 10 minutes and talk 4 minutes at a time.
Right.
Because they've only got 10 minutes, so they've got to build that relationship, which is Jesus. That's just not one CEO woke up today, down a friend, and wanted a salesperson to call.
Okay. Okay. So this is so, and I think to that point, you're probably really kind of qualifying that call then too, right? If they can invest an hour with you to work on their business together for a free hour, then the likelihood that they're going to become a client.
And if they quibble and say, oh, I don't have, if they quibble, I say, you know what? It doesn't have to be today or even tomorrow, but I really need an hour of your time, because I guarantee you, I'm not going to walk away until you got 3 brand new ideas that you can implement right away, and they'll be free.
Okay. So making the ask, but providing the carrot at the end, like what they're going to get out of that call, that to your point, 3 free tips that will have a big impact on their business.
Right. Whether or not we do business together, you'll get like,
okay. I love that. So now
someone might say, well, why would you do training? Because the CEO is not going to be doing the training.
Right.
I would share everything. In fact, I don't leave any meeting without giving them a copy of all my books and processes and everything. And someone said, would you just give them too much away? No, I'm giving things away that they're not ever going to implement because they don't have the skills.
Oh, so valuable.
But it's
Okay.
valuable to them.
So, sorry, I'm taking so many notes because there's so many like that. There's a couple different avenues I want to go down. First avenue, it sounds like Alice.
I'm just showing you something that I'm dropping off to a client today. This client is struggling with his value proposition. So I've got a book called Value Proposition Design. I value great information throughout both books. Enjoy, and I won't need them for a couple of months or more. Alice. Now, and these books, by the way, were like $150 each. No, 42 Canadian, sorry, and 41.95 Canadian. So they're not cheap books. So I'm dropping them off, and I may never see them again, but I probably will, along with a deal.
I love it. So that, to me, that is a practice that just speaks to value add. It speaks to really showing up personally for that client, right? It's not cookie cutter. It's not boilerplate. It's you're important to me, which I'm thinking might be C-level because I'm thinking it's about building relationships. But to your point, it's building credibility.
It's credibility. I could not care. Can I say a small bad word? I don't give a rat's ass about having a relationship with any of my clients.
We've heard worse. We've heard worse. Okay.
But I care that my clients succeed. When I work with a client, I am more committed sometimes to their success. Well, remember that one client we both worked with, and I would call the CEO and beg him to let me come in and work?
Yeah. Yeah.
Please, pay my own way. Just let me come in and work. Like, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That, to me, it's coming back to, again, the credibility, because you want to see them succeed, which also it comes back to, do I say fear, but sometimes there's this resistance I find for founders, and please weigh in on this, that they feel like they're selling something and trying to get them to change their mindset about you're offering a solution, like you're helping them to XYZ, like get out of the sales. It's not about you, but make it about them and what you're there to do for them.
Absolutely. I think being a critical care nurse was really valuable to me, because when I was working with a patient, I mean, I was passionately committed to them being able to take that first step after surgery, you know, to have that, go to the bathroom for the first time, you know, being able to stay awake long enough for visit with a loved one. Like, those are outcomes in nursing. And so it's the same thing. There's outcomes in sales. And so you can't, and the more you passionately care, and you drive, quotation mark, your customers towards excellence, the more referrals you have. I mean, I've been in this business 30 years, and I'm always getting referrals.
And well, and I know you're awesome at what you do. Again, I've witnessed you firsthand, and maybe we'll get into a story in a little bit. But I'm curious, when you talk about the sales, or when you talk about the call, you're always talking about speaking with the decision maker. I know some founders will try to work their way up and speak to an influencer first, or a gatekeeper. What are your thoughts on just going right to the top and how to get that decision maker on the phone versus the influencer?
That's a great question. So here's what happens is that when you work with a CEO, they can make a decision just on a handshake. When you're talking to anyone else, an assistant or another executive, they can't say yes based on a handshake. They can say no, and then they then have to take your proposal, let's say, to the boardroom. You're taking they take the decision to the boardroom and they pass it along, and there's 9 items on agenda. And your proposal might be number 7, and by now they're exhausted, time's up. And the guy slaps their proposal. Oh, yeah, well, this is what Tom from XYZ company said. You know, have a look at it and tell me what you think. No selling. Nobody can sell as well as you can.
Right. Not going to work. So just right to the top.
Right to the person who's got the financial responsibility for the success of this. You know, let's say it's a product, let's say you want to sell something on a production floor, then you must talk to the vice president of production, but say to them, you know, I have a coaching program for people who work in a production arena. And it's true that most companies like yours have exemplary employees, but there's always a few laggards who could do more and be more and have more. And those are the people I love to work with. You know, if you're willing to invest, say, 8 weeks of coaching, you know, I can guarantee with 88% accuracy that they will up-level themselves and become a fine performer.
But here then on this first call, this too is still where we jump back, like the ask in between is just 1 hour of your time. I'll give you 3 tips to make them better performers, but the ask at the end of that call will be to.
But you need to have something of value. Like, just give me, because remember whining to your mom or dad for a car or whatever. Come on, just give me the car one more time. So it's a bit like that. And really, look, just give me half, 3/4 hour of time. I'm going to do you 2 case studies of production environments I worked in where I was able to take the laggards, the ones that was holding the production up, and turn their performance around so that they became a top performer. Like, you know, how could you say no to that?
Okay. And what are your recommendations on getting past a gatekeeper so you can actually get to the decision maker? I know founders are going to ask that.
I don't call gatekeepers.
But if you're calling a vice president, typically you're not going to get on the phone with them.
Let's say I'm calling you.
Yeah.
Hi, Tanya. This is Alice Wheaton. We've never met. And the reason I'm calling is I need to speak with Tom Smith today. He's expecting my call. And he will have been expecting my call because I probably would have sent him an email, personal email saying, this is a little bit what I do, and I'm going to call Friday morning at 10 a.m.
Okay, so there's a little cheat sheet right there. Is send the email, get that out there, let them know that you're going to be calling, and then when you speak to the gatekeeper, let them know that XYZ person, individual, Mr. Mrs. Jones, whoever it is expecting a call. Okay, powerful. All right. Last question, just on this initial.
And you know, most times people look for complicated solutions.
Yes.
It's simple.
Yes. Well, and maybe the complication stems from, to your point, you know, the fear, right? Any kind of workaround that, voicemails. What is your stand on leaving a voicemail? Or he's not available right now, would you like to go to voicemail?
If I do use a voice message, and I don't very often, I would do it with humor. Shall I tell you what it is?
Go for it. Yes, please.
Tanya, this is Alice Wheaton. We've never met. Given that this is a voice message, I know the chances of me being in voicemail jail is pretty high. But if you have it in you, can you please let me be the one to avoid your jail this week and give me a call back?
Nice. Well, and just speaking about humor, I think this is where, again, watching you, and
it's just true, right?
I know, but this is where you, watching you in action, this is where you tend to, you build credibility. You do build the relationship. I've watched you, and this is where I'm going to inject this story where, working with this client that we both had, you were going from a list, you called all the salespeople in. So every single salesperson, we're sitting around a table, there's 10 salespeople there. Everyone was supposed to bring their list. Everyone's scared, to actually make a call. Alice actually just says, give me the darn list. I'll show you how it's done. No research whatsoever. She gets on the phone. She starts going through the list, but there's one call in particular really stands out to me.
The hormone call?
Well, the hormone call, but also the wrong number. Do you remember the wrong number? So going through a list, hi, is Joe there, please? I'm sorry, there's no Joe here. And Alice goes, okay, my mistake, apologies, and then hangs up the phone. And then you call back, you realize that, oh, it wasn't Joe, it was Tom. You were supposed to. So Alice gets right back on the phone and says, hey, Tom, you know what? I had the wrong number. I actually did mean to speak to you. You are who I want to speak to. My name is Alice. We've never met. The reason for my call. So, and from that, Alice, just the humor, because you were on speakerphone too, He laughed, you laughed, you had a good joke about it. You were talking about the fact you were going from a list, all these faux pas that, usually we avoid, but you just showed up and were just your authentic self and added humor to the mix. And you ended up having, these weren't 30-second calls. You ended up having great conversations with these people. And at the end of 5, 10, 15 minutes, hey, you know what, would you be open to meeting, Joe from this company? He just wants to show you how you can optimize your output from your field. Would that be okay with you? And you would get it every single time. You would get the meeting.
I remember, and your audience might be interested in this. I really didn't understand I didn't understand the technology. And one of the people I was talking to said, well, can you explain it to me? I says, well, think about it like this as women's hormones. If we don't have them right, we're not going to be prolific. And it's the same thing with your soil.
So yes, we were talking about agriculture and all the inputs and and hormones were not a part of the inputs into the.
But Alice was struggling. So
you still got the meeting.
Yeah, but we still got the meeting.
And so again, I know we're talking a story and people listening are like, anyways, I just want to share with you that in that situation, you can imagine these 10 salespeople who know everything about agronomy, they're agronomists, are going, what is she talking about? And they're kicking each other under the table and they're trying not to laugh because we're on speakerphone. And they're
getting appointments set for them, so they're happy.
And the disbelief, though, when Alice would get the meeting at the end of the call, it'd be like, how did she do that with everything that went wrong in that call? Wrong, but the wrongs, actually, to your point, Alice, those failures, perceived failures, that's what actually built it. That's what built the authenticity in that conversation, and it made them feel like you weren't a salesperson. You were really there to connect with them and to be a service, to provide a value that, and obviously you weren't the salesperson, but to let them know that this technology really does do wonders, right? It was incredible to watch that in action. So that was definitely a segue, but that authenticity.
One of my favorite fun days.
So important, so important. Okay, so kind of, go ahead.
To understand that it's that typically when something goes wrong, it doesn't work. Salespeople get off the phone. It's like they smack themselves on the head and said, who do I think I am? What was I thinking? I'm never going to do this again. So having a sense of humor about yourself, we all laughed at me that day and I'm still here to tell the tale.
You laughed at yourself too, right? Like that was the fun. And I think it's the humor and the honesty.
Fail too.
And the lightness, yes. And don't be afraid to fail, right? It kind of reminds me again of my girls' soccer games, like and Gretzky's famous quote, you're going to miss 100% of the shots you don't take, right? So, and I know you're famous for saying this, you're not going to get a yes on every single call. So the more often you get your no's, the closer you are to getting a yes, right? So, although I've always seen you get the yes. Again, this is why I find your work just absolutely incredible, because you can fail forward, fail often, and you still get the meeting at the end of it all. Like it's brilliant to watch. Okay. The other little piece that I just want to take us through here. So we're making the call, we're speaking to the decision maker. We put in that ask to have an hour-long conversation to learn more about them, and at the end to provide A, B, and C of value. So the call becomes it's not a sales call. It's here's what I need to learn from you, and here's what I can give you in exchange. So there's a carrot at the end of it. In that second call, do you follow questions that you want to ask of them? Are these like qualifying the client, or what does that call look like for you when you're making it?
Oh, that's a great idea. So I don't know if you have this model, but I'll make a note to send it to you anyway, and share it with your entire team. It's the one with the 4 quadrants.
Okay, you have to send it. Yeah.
The thing about salespeople, especially like B and C salespeople, if they don't have a concrete process, and we laugh about relationship selling, but I always ask them, tell me what your process is. Then if you're a relationship builder, what are your secret sauces? And they have no idea.
Okay.
I show up, I'm friendly, I make nice, I ask them questions about their family, their vacations, their sports, and those Saskatchewan Rough Riders or Winnipeg Jets. I ask them those questions. And A-level clients they're so busy, they don't want to be talking about rhetoric. Your C-level on entry level person might be, because they haven't moved up the chain yet.
So what do the quadrants do? What are you looking for in the quadrants?
The four quadrants I look at, I ask my client, and I'll send this to you. I ask my questions. So there's four quadrants in a business. There's top line, production, people, and bottom line. And so there's only three sources of business. Business from new clients, business from past clients, and business from existing clients. So how do you get new clients? So I'll ask the CEOs, tell me your protocol, your process, and your measures to bring on A-level clients. And they then look at me cross-eyed because they themselves have not considered categorizing their clients as A, B, or C. They might say our top client, but and so what is your process for concretely, consistently getting new clients? Oh, we don't have a process. So what about the past clients? How do you get them back? And would you agree that they're deserters, or are they deserted? Oh, they're always deserted. Why? Well, because of our customers, care is not good or whatever. And that's okay. So your existing clients, how long does it take you to know that one of your existing clients has moved to the competition? And chances are, as they say, we never know. I was working with an engineering firm recently, and I said, have you ever driven by a project and seen a billboard announcing its arrival soon with another engineer's name, and you were sure it was your job? And he said, yes, too many times, and it's heartbreaking and sickening at the same time. Pardon me. And so what happens is that most people get their clients, and then they go about getting new clients, and they forget. And so what happened when we don't understand that your top line consists of getting new clients, keeping your clients, and getting the old ones back. That's the only three things you can do with your top line.
Okay. And so when you've got the quadrant, then the top line quadrant, no, these quadrants are broken down into those categories, and you're asking, okay.
No, into four categories. Top line, which is new business from new clients, new business from existing clients, and getting your old clients back.
Okay. And so, but these four categories, these are questions that you're asking the prospect in the second call, going through these quadrants. Okay.
I ask first call.
Okay.
They don't get a second call unless there's interest, right? So,
the first call is just, hi, my name is Alice. We've never met, blah, blah, blah.
The second call is either a meeting or a Zoom.
Is the hour. And this is where you're asking the questions. Yeah. Okay. And so you go in with the quadrant, and the quadrant then informs or it inspires the questions that you ask of that founder that will, okay.
Every problem in a company exists because of the top line. So now we go to production, and the three issues there are people, are the quality, efficiency, and communication.
Okay.
Personally, I never ask about that.
Okay.
Because that's not my business. But I outline what my client or flipboard, and they see the four quadrants.
Yeah.
And I say, so what would happen if we circle back to the top line and show you how to bring in new clients? What would happen to your business then? So the bottom left quadrant is the people, and their three attributes are their knowledge, skills, and attitude. Well, if you don't have a robust top line, you have to settle for the C or B level, the B or C level employees, because you can't afford them.
So, but how do we take this then, Alice? I'm trying to wrap my head around this. I know you're talking about selling sales as a service, and for many founders out there that are selling a service, it is going to potentially tie into the bottom line, especially if you're in consulting. But what if you're selling something like, if you're still in B2B, and I have this example in front of mind, but you're selling cheerleading outfits.
Sure, but then so that would be in the that's not your top line quadrant. That's in your production quadrant.
Okay,
So
gotcha.
if they're selling fabric to somebody who makes cheerleading outfits, then that's in the production line. They want to know. So their perfections, like there's someone in Winnipeg I work with, and she's a production, not enforcer, but she improves processes and.
Okay, yep.
Right. So she works with her clients and she uses all these tools. She works with her clients to increase the efficiency and quality and communication within the production department. That's all she does.
Got it. Got it. So, okay. So that's a game changer. So
she needed to talk to the CEO.
Gotcha. Or C-suite somewhere, right? The operations, whatever that looks like. So knowing the client, knowing what it is that you're selling, and knowing how your product or service, what quadrant it's going to most impact, and going in then with those questions based on that quadrant. And then it sounds like at the end of asking the questions, you're going to understand their pain points. You're going to be able to understand how your product or solution addresses those pain points. And then I know this is where you talked about also leaving them with something of value now. So how do you weave in those carrots that you talked about earlier? Is it through the call? Is it at the end?
Well, I might say if I'm in a meeting with the vice president of production, I would say, and they've said communication is a big issue. I would say, so do you particularly notice a miscommunication if someone's made a mistake and they want to cover it up? Do you notice the type of communication where there's lots of gossiping around your employees and work is not getting done because there's a bunch of little cliques? Yeah, that happens all the time. Okay, so can we imagine somehow a floor where everyone does their job, they're fluent in their interactions, and nobody's picking on anybody or criticizing anybody? Can you imagine that? Yes, but I can't. I says, well, I don't want to leave here today. I don't know if we'll ever work together, but I don't want to leave here today without offering up one pivotal solution. Can I do that? Yeah. I said, I would, in my work, I have found that gossip amongst employees is actually like stabbing someone in the back with an invisible knife. And I did this with the city of Airdrie, like as an aside. And what everyone did was agree to sign a contract with each other that if they were going to gossip about someone else, they would bring that person in the room so that they could gossip about them while they're there.
Well, I'm sure that just shut down the whole gossip situation right there and then.
But it makes sense, right? Because gossipers only talk about people who are not in the room.
Right. Okay.
Which is cowardly. Okay. Right. And so the whole process, it took a while for the production team to get it. But because gossipers, it's a form of, what's the term today? What everyone was picked on?
Bullying.
Bullying. It's a form of bullying, right?
Yeah.
Although it's passive bullying, and they get to look righteous and make the other person look bad.
So in this process, then that was the piece of advice that you offered up as a solution, is that in this event, in this situation, here's what we recommend. This is what worked for this client. You might want to initiate or implement this.
And then I developed some tools to measure the level of gossip.
Yep. Okay.
Really sneaky tool to measure the level of gossip. And then I delivered my results, not naming anyone. And so then we went ahead and set up the program.
Awesome. And so get the business as a result of giving that solution. So
it's something they hadn't thought about before.
Right. So just the innovation there behind those solutions. So what is your ask after we've gone through the quadrants, after you've given them one piece of one solution, or 1 to 3 carrots, whatever that value is. And to your point, before you're offering the value, you said we might never work together, but I want to leave this call with XYZ. If they don't start to kind of nibble on that carrot and want more information, what is your ask? Do you have another ask? Like, what is the ask at the end of that second call?
My ask then is to say, so Tanya, I don't know about you, but I've kind of made up a number that if we were to turn around your sales team, that you'd be looking at an extra $10 million to your top line. I mean, is that a number you could get your head around? And they said, yeah. And I said, well, when would you like to start?
Okay. Okay. So again, for companies where it is top line driven, that's easy to do. But if it's, so for example, if we go back to the cheerleading outfit and it's not about top line and it's about production now in that quadrant.
But it ultimately is about top line.
Or bottom, right?
Or bottom.
What they're saving.
Yeah, so your top line, your bottom line is influenced by your top line.
Okay.
If you've got a awful top line where you've got no revenue, well, your bottom line.
Right. So what would, and I don't want to put you on the spot, if something comes to mind, what would you suggest? Again, cheerleading outfit, and you go through the solution. Here's one possible, or here's a carrot for you. Here's a value add. How would you end that call with an ask? I've been, roughly, I've been thinking about what these outfits could do for your company. Sorry.
I would say, so it sounds to me that you want to, you're sponsoring this baseball team and so you want them to be energized and perform better. And to that end, you've decided to add a cheerleading team. But it's best to brand your cheerleaders to the same colors and theme of the players. And so, what do you think that would add to you? What would you think it would add to you in terms of recognition in the community, your reputation, your status, and attracting new customers? What do you think? Do you think any of that? So by making that list, it sounds like I'm asking them a question, but really what I'm saying, it's going to brand your company, right?
Yes. So you go through the solutions again, you reiterate the solution, you ask the client, what do you think that would do for you? What would that do for your company to have all those solutions in place? They then have to articulate, and then you put the ask, when would you like to work together?
Right. And if they say, well, I have to think about it, I'll say, in my experience, when clients tell me they need to think about it, it's one of two things. They don't have the gut feeling they're looking for, or they need to do some financial machinations to make sure they can work. Am I out to lunch, or is that true?
Okay. What I love about that, again, is you're taking on that. You're not shying away. You're not leaning back from that discomfort of, they haven't said yes. Okay, thank you very much. You're leaning into it and asking them to articulate why they're still hesitant, using examples of, in my experience, this means one of 2, 3 things, whatever that is, getting them to qualify what those are so that you can take that further, right? That's where I think that's what I'm hearing. And that is that right? Okay. And to me, again, now in your language, that to me sounds like an A-level salesperson, not a C-level, right?
I mean, and the path between A-level to C-level to A-level is really not that difficult. It's understanding some processes and understand the process of managing one's own emotions and feelings.
Oh, yeah, so true. And just being aware of what you're feeling in that process.
Right.
And practice, right? Practice. Yeah.
Willing to fail better, feel really great. And, and because it's when you avoid something, it always will dog you.
Yeah. Oh, so true. Well, and again, to the point of entrepreneurship is really an opportunity to learn about yourself, right? And stop that, stop perpetuating the fear and the anxiety. So here's, in the close of this segment, I want to just really hammer home on the close in the call. So what I'm hearing you say is in that second call, you're actually closing there. And for some, it might be, we're going to get you some sketches. I'm thinking of the cheerleader piece again. We're going to get you some mock-ups. and here's what I want to talk about. So to your point, you said, when can we get the business? Then you might get some pushback around, well, we need to see numbers, or we need to see a proposal, right? And I love you've shared with me some advice on sending a proposal over. So you're in the second call, you've got someone on the other side that's saying, yes, it sounds great. Send me a proposal, send me some numbers. And then you say,
I say, absolutely, I would love to prepare a proposal. But this is my protocol. And what that means is that with the minute I'm ready to send you the proposal, it's prepared, then I'm going to phone you. My proposal will be completely lined up, ready for me to press send. And you and I will be able to look at my proposal as a first draft. We'll both be looking at it with same or similar eyes. And I consider it first draft because you may have some other ideas, as might I. When we're really clear about any changes or modifications that we need to make, and I make them, I'll promise to email you that. But our first meeting is when we actually define the process, and I can't do that without you.
oh, I love it. Again, just an example of leaning in, not shying away, not being afraid of, because most founders just put it out there and then wait for the darn client to call back and say, yeah, we love it, right? Or sign. So I think to your point of that process of just clarifying the protocol, I forget, you had a term around it, clarifying the call, clarifying the protocol, whatever that is, of just, this is just a first draft. We still need to work together. And I'll send it. We're going to set a meeting. We're going to go through it. We're going to make the necessary edits or adjustments. I love that. And it definitely does sound, it sounds assertive, to your point, not aggressive, just assertive.
But it's also a rationale. Like it just makes sense. It's practical. Like, how many times have we as salespeople flung proposals over the fence, never to hear from them again?
Yeah.
And if you send a proposal in an email without talking it through with your client, then you've just flung it over the fence.
Yeah. Well, I think to your point too, earlier on, the resistance around making the sales call, picking up the phone, is fear. The resistance to the proposal, again, is fear. Oh, they don't like it, or something was wrong, or it was too expensive. But they don't follow through to actually even find out what it was. And what I love about your process is it circumvents that discussion because it's a first draft.
But it requires assertiveness.
Yes.
Versus confidence.
Okay. But confidence is gained by doing more and more of these calls.
Confidence is gained over time.
Yes.
But for me, I would never ever, and I would never ever describe myself as confident. I describe myself as competent. And the reason is because I can always learn more, and I do.
I love it. That's great. So competent, change confidence to competent. And that way, yeah, you just get it done.
You've got that fear model, right?
Yeah. No, but I'm sure I will.
Yeah, fear model.
Okay. All right, Alice, we've thank you, founders, for listening. Alice, thank you for sharing all of that advice. This was a longer than normal episode, but I think, tons of really important suggestions there, especially for making the call. So get your decision maker, get your lists, make the call, go through the ask, guide them through that process, lean into the fear, right? Don't let them off the hook easily, because you're there to show up for them and you're there to help them build their business. So that means gaining that confidence in making the call and walking through that process with them.
You definitely need to be confident. If you're living life as you should be, like by the horns, you'll never be confident.
Or, yeah, okay, well, I think that's a whole different episode. How we describe confidence, but I love the competent piece. That's great. Okay, so we're back here for one more segment, which is really just the follow up and the follow through of making this call, because once you get the business, that's actually just the tip of the iceberg. There's, a process behind that. So Alice is going to join us back here for our last segment of this episode on, again, follow up and follow through. Alice, thank you here for part 2. So appreciate it. Again, thanks to our Champs Community Future Sunrise. And we'll see you back in here for part 3 of the Gab Lab.